Go ahead and allow for a really comfortable seat. Hmm. And today we find ourselves just past the new moon. We have, let's see, Wednesday. Today is Friday. Wednesday was the exact new moon in Taurus, and the moon is still in Taurus, but it's starting very slowly to illuminate. We're at about less than a 10% crescent right now, but the energy is slowly building. Taurus associates with the neck and the throat in the physical body. And if we consider the physical aspect of that, the neck spine being the transition between the head, the skull, and the rib spine, how we support our head, how we actually take in our environment and our senses depend on the physical nature of our neck spine. From a more energetic and philosophical standpoint, the throat is that conduit, right? Energetically between the heart and the mind. And it's the place where we express the truth of our heart and what has been distilled through the fire of our lower chakras. So, along with this astrology viewpoint, I like to pull a card from Kim Krantz's Wild Unknown deck of animal cards. And today I drew the Phoenix, which I feel is also appropriate in this Taurus new moon phase. The new moon being that beginning point, right? The beginning of the cycle, the lowest, darkest, richest time for setting intention. And the Phoenix in this deck represents the first chakra. It's the very first of the spirit or ether cards. And the Phoenix is freedom from suffering and past karma and reincarnation. The Phoenix represents the transformation of our past. It doesn't mean running from it, denying it, or burning bridges with rage. The Phoenix employs an advanced technique described in yoga as the burning of impurities through practice and dedication, known as tapas. The essence of the Phoenix is with us when we realize we have been suffering too long and something must change. We take a stand and decide to live consciously instead of being driven by the unconscious mind and its long list of fears and aversions. At that very moment, the spark of the Phoenix is lit, and the great bird helps us burn through our baggage. We no longer run from who we are, what has happened to us, or what we have done. The stuckness and dead weight fall into the ashes, and a lightness and clarity emerge. As the stagnancy continues to smolder, the Phoenix lifts our spirits up and up, and we begin to recognize ourselves again. We may catch a glimmer in our eye that wasn't there before. Look closely. It's a sign that the fire of transformation is upon your wings. So if that is helpful for you in your practice at all today, any of the symbolism of either the neck, the throat, that transitional space, that conduit space, as well as that earthiness of Taurus that is both anchoring and transformative in this new moon phase. How can we employ that idea of the Phoenix growing up? On Wednesday, I talked about us being the seed planted in the darkness of that new moon. And this evokes for me this idea of the Phoenix bursting out of its shell and rising slowly just as a seed starts to germinate and sprout and rise, right? They to me have the same upward energy. So we're going to play in the body with those concepts along the way. It's up to you how you embody and resonate with those different images. All right. If you've sat already with your feet crossed for a while, you may choose to change or switch the cross. Sitting up tall, allowing for the thighs to grow heavy, rooting, even as the tail begins to lift and grow light. Closing the outer eyelids so that your inner vision may become attuned. Perhaps you focus on the movement of the breath in through the nose, through the throat, and down across the lungs. Perhaps you focus on the exhale, how the breath moves up and out. Allowing the head to be light on the neck bones, the shoulders and collarbones buoyant, gathering gently in the belly as you become a little more familiar with the rhythm of your breath. Imagining the breath can take spaciousness into the side waist, the back body, under the shoulder blades, the base of the ribs, even the low back. A softening of the jaw and the tongue, rising of the roof of the mouth through the crown. Turning the palms up on your next inhale. Reach from the shoulder blades out through the fingertips and up overhead. Shrugging slightly up around the neck, but keeping the neck tall, the head light. Turn palms out, press the walls away as you come back down, exhaling. Inhaling, palms to the sky. Moving from the shoulder blades. Imagine the wings of the phoenix. They're not just the tips of the wings, they're attached, they're fully embodied with that rib cage. Feel them move. Again, rising. And then pressing out. Inhale, reach up. On your exhale, soften elbows out to the side as you gently twist to the right, looking back. Be here for a moment. Keep the navel centered over your pubic bone, and then move the ribs, imagining that they move one level at a time and then up through the neck spine. Not forcing, not cranking, being in the breath, letting the back body still expand with air. Soft jaw. Inhale, come through center, reaching up. Exhale, elbows soften out, shoulder height, twisting to the left. Gathering the navel in. Again, it's not about how far you go. It's about the nature of getting there. Finding the resistance. Sending out invitations so that the breath is coaxed slowly and surely into those spaces. Inhale, come through center. Exhale, gently twist right. Inhale, come through center. Gathering the belly in, lifting the ribs up, and then keeping that height as you exhale, spiraling through the crown. Inhale, one more time each way. Taking your time, don't rush. And then exhaling, last time to the left. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, palms touch. Trace down your midline. Anchor to the heart. Bow into that heart space, lifting the sternum as the chin drops. Maybe you look left and right gently. And then settle into the center space and set your intention. Perhaps you pull from some of those symbols that I spoke of earlier. Perhaps something more personal has arisen for you this morning. Be with that. From this position, imagine your vocal cords lifting up to meet your neck spine. And then let that pull back in space slightly. Continue pulling back as you press the heart forward gently. Pull back through the very base of your throat and neck. Instead of tilting at the base of the skull, pull the base of the skull straight back and just notice the activation of both the upper back and the front throat. Press the palms gently together. Let the breath lift up through the navel and underneath the rib cage. And then on an exhale, press your hands down to your thighs, gather the belly back, find a cat-like bending of the spine. Ribs move back between the shoulder blades. You might roll onto the sacrum slightly, tipping as the head drops down. Breathe into the back body here. And slowly out. Sipping air in through the nose, find a cow pose. Rock the pelvis forward, navel still hugs the spine as spine moves forward. Shoulder blades peel back. That same pulling of the neck spine back in space instead of just looking up to the sky. Exhale, cat pose. Roll through the vertebrae, back body expanding. And then inhaling, front body expands. Lift it up by the back body. Exhale, gather, press. Inhale, pull with the arms, the shoulders, open heart cow. Exhale, cat. Pressing through. Shoulder blades forward, head low. Stack the spine neutral, tail lifts, belly stays gathered, front ribs not popping, shoulders light, head upright, close eyes, pause. Feel the heaviness of your thighs, let them go. The upright nature of your spine resting on its foundation. Speak for itself. Levity, lightness, the front and back side of the heart. The front throat, the back neck, the roof of the mouth, the crown. Transitioning off any elevation, you have your hips on. Place that off to the side. Perhaps a layer of blanket underneath your knees across the center of your mat, especially if you're not on carpet. Protecting those knees is imperative. We only come with one set. Letting the hands come slightly in front of the shoulder so that our wrist is not hyperextended, but has a little bit more than 90 degrees at that front crease. And then let your thumbs be slightly wider than your armpits, knees directly under your hips. Pull back for that cow pose, shoulders back, activate upper arms, feet anchor to the earth, get long from the tip of the tail to the crown. Again, avoiding that breaking of the back neck. Notice the change in my voice when that happens. I want to lift my vocal cords and lengthen the back neck. Coiling slightly behind my heart, lengthening my sternum toward my chin, just as I did in my seated version. And then on an exhale, start with your lower body. Press the feet and shins. Gather the low belly and then the upper belly, and then push the knuckles down to lift the ribs up between the shoulder blades. Let the head dangle heavy and look left and right. Let gravity traction the back neck slightly. Even as the upper back, the chest, the belly, and the legs are very actively engaging the earth. At center, pull with the upper body, shoulders together, arms back, heart widening, sternum lengthens toward chest, even though we don't shift forward fully. Exhale, push with the lower body, ripple through the spine, head heavy. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, cat pose. Inhale, cow. exhale through your cat. Maybe big toes touch behind you as your spine rounds and the hips come back to heels for a prayer pose. Allow your forehead to meet your blanket or your mat and rock gently the third eye, the forehead. And then find your center point stable. Imagine wrapping your elbows to point toward the earth instead of poking out toward the sides. As you do that, the hands may rotate slightly and the fingers might point out. Allow that to happen. You allow your shoulder blades wrap around your heart and the collarbone bones support the throat just a little bit more. Imagine the length of tail moving back to the back edge of your mat and the crown reaching toward the front edge. Let the breath move through the back body. On your inhale, pull with your hands, shoulders back, leading with the crown, belly lifting, unfurling the heart, cow pose. Exhale, cat pose, curling and touching back to prayer. Actively, gently flowing. Inhale forward. And exhale back. Inhale forward to cow. And exhale through cat, back to prayer. Lifting up the head. Take your left hand underneath your right elbow. Hips are still heavy back. Turn the palm to face up and let the left temple meet the earth for a moment. Maybe you slide your right hand back in front of your face and pressing gently through those fingers, begin to twist the ribs ever so slightly. Gather the belly. You're not pushing yourself across your thighs. You're spiraling gently right at the heart center. And then slide the hand forward. Unthread left hand, prayer pose, touch forehead down. And then looking up on the inhale, second side, right hand threads under. Palm faces up. Hips stay centered. And you turn your right temple to the earth. Hips are heavy, heart is heavy. And then if you'd like, you can bend left elbow, sliding fingers back along edge of mat in front of eyes. And then gentle push. Not much. You're maybe moving an inch or so. It's a very small internal kind of movement. Feeling how the shoulder moves gently on the spine and the rib cage. Breathing into that back body. Softening the jaw. And then reaching the hand forward. Unthreading right arm. Touch down, prayer pose. Inhale, table. Find a cow. And then a cat. And then once more your table. Your hands again are ever so slightly wider than your armpits. If you're right underneath, this is going to take you off of your spiral eventually. So keeping the hands ever so slightly wider than your shoulders, pointing elbows back. Reach your right hand across to your left wrist. Your right hand grips like you're holding a bow and arrow. Bow with the left hand and the string with the right. Start to pull that string along your inner arm toward your armpit and pause there. Notice that the elbow likes to tuck in toward your chest. Instead, let it be out there, an extension of your shoulder. Notice your hips are wanting to start to move over to the right. Can you hug them in toward midline? Gather the belly. Now peel that string across your collarbones and stop. Elbow points somewhat toward the sky. Again, it's not tucked in by your ribs. You're pulling across your collarbones. Notice your left arm, the elbow likes to point out. Point it instead toward your thighs. Counter that right pull of the hips, and then unfurl the elbow. It doesn't matter if the hand reaches for the sky or not. Don't just like crank back in the shoulder. Be one integrated unit from the earth out through that right hand. On an exhale, bend that elbow, press it under left armpit, and hover a couple of inches off the ground. Notice now that the hips like to slide over to the left. Center them. Be on your axis. The head can be heavy, though it doesn't actually touch the earth. On your inhale, spiral back up. Pull the bowstring all the way up, and then across, and then open. And then exhale, press through. Keep the hips stable. Don't let them sway side to side. Gather the belly. Inhale up. Looking up if it feels appropriate. Exhale. Pressing through. One more like this. Inhale. Push through the knuckles of that left hand. And then exhale, come through. This time, as you hover, look down. Make sure your right shoulder is in line with your right knee and not trying to get across the midline. Place it on the earth. Your right temple down. Right palm faces the sky. Center the hips. Don't let them drift over to the left. Maybe you push gently into left hand and spiral the heart. Maybe you gently rock on that right temple. You can stay here in this very active, open, twisting version. If you'd like a little stretch in the right shoulder, instead, walk your left fingers up the edge of your mat and drop your left armpit toward the earth. Laying your chest and your collarbones across that right arm. Find your breath. Maybe you sigh, maybe you hum, maybe you let some stuff go. Let your hips and your thighs and your shins be really active. Looks passive on the outside, yogis, but there's a lot happening internally here. When you're ready, left elbow bends, hand slides down the mat, roughly in front of your face. Push with the knuckles, inhale to the sky, reach one more time. Pulling that bowstring, hips stable, and then exhale, come down to your table. Walk out that left palm, right palm, and then find a cow pose. And then a cat pose. And then your table. Lifted tail, gathered belly, long, broad chest. Second side, rooting through the right knuckles. Left hand comes across. Already those hips are going to want to fade over to the left. Keep them centered. Go slow this first time. Start to pull. Just come up to the armpit. Point that elbow directly back toward your thighs. Hug the hips to center. Be there. Find your belly. Find your heart spiral. Then trace the collarbones. Feel the shoulder and the upper back engage even more. Notice any tension at the base of the skull. Then unfurl the elbow. The arm doesn't have to go anywhere else, just straightening out the elbow. Base of skull, let it be soft. Hug those hips in. Mine are drifting a lot today. Find your breath. Inhale deep. Exhale, bend the elbow. Spiral the heart the opposite direction, reaching under right armpit, maybe right elbow bends, but you hover. The head can be heavy. The hips are probably drifting off to the right. Really pull them in towards center. Find your navel. Find the length of the heart. And then on your inhale, pull the bowstring up the arm, across the chest, and unfurl. Check your hips. Exhale, push through. Stable lower body, mobile upper body. Inhale to the top, take your time. Slow, long, deliberate breaths, breathing slow, long, deliberate movement, and then coming through. One more, opening up. And pressing through. Look at the earth. Use your eyes. Make sure that your left shoulder hasn't come too far across the midline as you set it down. Left temple rests. Left hand opens, shining to the ceiling. Center the hips. Find that belly. Then find your breath. If there's a millimeter of extra spiral there, maybe you find it. Maybe you rock on that left temple. And then you reach your right hand forward if it suits you up the edge of your mat. You're not, again, trying to cross the midline. You're trying to keep that hand and shoulder broad as right armpit drops down toward the earth, chest rolling down across the upper arm. Find your breath in your belly. Anchor through your lower body so you can start to release through the upper body. Soft jaw, maybe you hum, maybe you sigh, maybe you use those vocal cords, maybe you get rid of something that is being stirred up. When you're ready, bending right elbow, edge of mat, in line with eyes. Push down, lift with the belly, pull the bowstring one last time, reaching for the sky. And then root down, rolling out, palms, and then finding cow pose, and then cat pose, and then cow, tuck your toes. Exhale, gather the ribs, lift the knees, then the hips. Take a downward facing dog. Pedaling out your feet to stretch out hamstring and calf muscle. Maybe making a little extra dance movement as the hips shift side to side, allowing the side waist and low back to get a little stretchiness. And then as you find your center, feet are hips width, knees are soft, crease of hip lifts up. Gather the ribs so the heart is buoyant instead of dropping down and collapsing through the armpits. Be strong in the heart so then your head can surrender completely. Allowing that traction of the neck spine, even as your shoulders start to shrug. Let your crown be heavy and your wrists and heart be light. Lifting the left heel, take it to the sky. Bring it to the chest. Stay in your dog shape here. And then push, three-legged dog. And then knee to chest. Don't move forward to plank. Stay in your dog shape. Inhale, three-legged dog. And then exhale, knee to chest. Now, keeping knee on your chest, lift with your back heel, lift with your hips, lift with your chest like a cat pose. Then push the foot through to the front of your mat. Lunge, dropping back knee, untucking toes. Take your blocks or your books or your boxes and stack your hands on them just outside the ankle. So you're framing that ankle. Otherwise, shin is directly over your heel. With these blocks, the higher the better. Give us a little lift in the heart. The back shin presses down. The back knee pulls forward. The front heel pulls back. We feel the thighs and pelvis engage. We tilt the tail up. We gather the belly back. And then we lift the heart to the sternum. And your blocks may not be close enough, so maybe you take your hands onto your thigh. What we're not doing here is collapsing in the pelvis, and we're not pushing our heart back with our hands. We're pulling the belly up and under the ribs and then lifting the sternum separately toward the chin. Same thing as we did in the very beginning. Pull back through the throat, the base of the throat, the vocal cords, and then maybe you look at a 45-degree angle or where wall meets ceiling. Soften the jaw. Feel the working of the front and side throat, but allow your breath to move through there clearly. Inhale deep, and then exhale, start to push with your left heel. Maybe you flex that foot. Hands might come to your blocks. They might move back as we slowly straighten the front leg. Might not come totally straight this first time, don't worry. Notice the sway of the hips, try to keep them centered. Lift through the tail, open the heart, lengthen the back neck. Not looking forward or up so that the back neck breaks, but instead keeping that front throat in support. On an inhale, pull with the left heel, lift with the tail, the belly, the heart, then maybe the shoulders and the hands. You can keep your hands low if you choose. And then exhale, hands come down, hips come back, heart stays really long and broad. Don't collapse into a flexion. Inhaling, pull forward, be deliberate. Back leg helping to control that movement and keep your hips buoyant. Throat pulling back, gaze looking up, and then exhale, slowly tipping back. One more, yogis, taking it forward and up. And then exhale, hands to the earth. That foot comes back down. Cow pose. And then cat pose. And then cow pose, tucking toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. Let the head go heavy, feet hips width. Find that buoyancy in the crease of the hips and in the lift of the ribs, and then heaviness in the head. When you're ready, inhale, right heel comes high. Stay in your dog shape, and then bend that knee, pull it toward your chest. Isolate the movement into the hip and the knee. Inhale, three-legged dog, reach up, and then exhale, gather that in. One more, reaching up, and then gathering in. This time, keep it on your chest. Lift back heel, hips, heart, like cat pose, make space. Your exhale pushes the foot forward. If it doesn't land all the way forward, grab it, pick it up, and move it. Dropping the back knee, hips width, hands come up onto blocks, books, or boxes. Find your foundation first. Push down through the shin. Pull forward through that back thigh and knee. Pull back through the right heel. Feel your thighs scissor together underneath you. Lift through the tail, gather through the belly, lift the sternum toward the chin and the throat back into the back neck. Hands might come to the thigh. Pausing, stabilizing and refining. The tail lifting instead of tucking under toward that front heel. Lift it, feel low back engaged. And then gather the ribs, and then lift the sternum and pull the throat back into space for that 45-degree gaze. Inhale fully. And then on your exhale, hands can come down to blocks or books or fingertips. Flex right foot, start to straighten right leg. It might not go all the way. Try to keep the hips centered, hands wider, maybe more stable. Be there for a moment, stretching through that back channel, calf, hamstring, hip, and then activating the back spine, lifting through the throat, long back neck. Inhale, pull with the right heel, lift with the tail. Then maybe the hands, the shoulders, riding that upward wave of the chest, keeping that throat moving back, really active if you look up. Exhale, push with the right heel, hips come back. Half lying monkey. Might get a little deeper each time, but we're not pushing it. Inhale, pull forward. Long, deep breath. And then exhale, hinge in the hips, back spine stays active, don't collapse. One more like this, inhale. Exhale. Inhale, come up. Exhale, hinge in the hips, hands come down to the earth. Right foot swings back to table. Inhale into your cow. Exhale through your cat. Inhale, cow, tucking toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. Be here 2 to 3 breaths. If you choose a prayer pose instead, that's totally acceptable. Allowing that buoyancy in the hips and the ribs so the head can go heavy and the spine, neck spine, surrender, traction. Find the flow in your breath. Going down to the knees. Depending on how your mat is situated in your room, you may need to turn along the length of your mat. We're going to come to a high kneeling position. If extra padding is needed underneath your knees, please make that happen. On your knees, imagine a block between your ankles. Really pull toward midline without the heels touching. You want to just give a little grip, a little action in those outer hips. The left foot is going to come out. And as you do this, be really conscientious. Your hip stays aligned directly over your knee, so the femur is upright. It doesn't pop out to the side, and you don't move so far that you're off that axis. When you place your left heel, make sure that it's actually on line with your knee and not your toes on line with your knee. You really want the heel and the knee to be aligned with one another. Toes point mostly forward, but some of us in our ankles and our shin bones, a little outward point is totally acceptable to help keep the knee happy and the hip. Lift the tail, then gather the front ribs, then reach up with the shoulder blades, long, light neck and head, soft face, roll out the wrists. Root through the top of the right foot and the sole of the left foot. Inhale, reach higher. Exhale, left arm out and down. Let the back of the hand land on the thigh, really light. Push down more, lengthen your right side waist. Exhale, keep the length as you reach over, side bend. Gathering in the belly. There's a tendency for that left side to just get really heavy. Can the left armpit lift up so that both sides are long as you come out? Maybe you look down. Maybe you look up. Inhale deep, and then exhale, reach the right hand out to the side. Start to side hinge in that right hip. Imagine being a long line from left heel to hip to heart. And then inhale, reach up. Push both feet down. Exhale, side bend. Look down. Inhale, look up. Exhale, reach out. Inhale, up. Exhale, side bend. Inhale, up. Exhale, reach out. This time, you might drop the fingertips light and reach up through that left hand. If this feels okay, maybe you start to flex the left foot and lift the heel off the ground. We're not trying to get it really high and crank in that side hip. We want to be that same long line, heel, hip, heart. If you'd like, exhale, pull the knee to the chest, grasping the shin or the ankle, and then point the knee back and out to the side. We're not going into a full back bend here. We're really keeping those ribs anchored and then kicking gently into the hand to fire the front of that left thigh. Look up, look down. Kick into your hand just enough that you can get lighter on your right hand. And maybe there's a spot where the hand leaves the earth and you dance with your balance. And then pull the tail back toward the heel, then kick into the hand, then broaden the collarbones. Think shoulder blades together toward the spine. Pull back through the neck, through the throat, then with the gaze. Let the leg go, extending it long, hand to the sky. Foot presses down into the earth. Inhale, stand up, reach up. Exhale, knee comes in. Sit back onto your heels. Close eyes, pause. Notice. Notice if you are warm or if you are cold. Notice if there is some heavy breathing happening, even though we've been moving very slowly. Do not judge any of the qualities that you observe. Simply be aware. Press down through the shins, rise up, high kneeling position. Pushing the right foot out. Again, finding that heel on line with your knee, and in a position where your hip is directly over your knee, your thigh upright. Tilt the tail up, gather the ribs back, then shrug shoulders as you reach arms upward. Length and levity in the neck and the head. Turning those right toes to whatever position is healthy for your knee and your ankles. No need to crank and internally rotate in those parts if it doesn't work for your anatomy. Inhale, get tall. Exhale, right arm out and down. Remember, that's the back of the hand. It's really light. We're not bearing weight there. Inhale, push left foot down. Left side lengthens, reaching up. Exhale, keep both side waists long as you come over. Don't just collapse down. Keep that left hip pulling in toward the midline. Left side long, look down. Look up. On an exhale, start to reach out. Hinging in the side of that left hip. Push down slightly through that shin. Be one long line from right heel to hip to heart. Feel that side waist and neck and shoulder working. Inhale, push both feet down, lift up. Exhale, right side bend. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, reach out. Arms can start to do whatever feels right. Inhale, come up. Exhale, come over. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, reach out. Let's do this one more time. Reaching up. Coming over, right side bend. Active lengthening. Inhale, coming up. And then exhale, reaching out. Maybe left fingers get long toward the earth, right hand stacks. Maybe you come to the right tippy toes and then flex that foot, lifting the heel slightly. Finding the balance point between fingertips and left knee, left shin. Activate your right leg, give it a lot of prana, be that long line, heel, hip, heart. Find the breath. Find your flow in the stillness. Looking down, looking up. If you'd like, bend the right knee toward the chest, hand comes to shin or ankle. Then point the knee, an extension of your hip. Remember, we're not trying to lift it really high. We're not trying to crank into the back bend. We're trying to resist that back bend using our belly. We very gently kick into the hand. One long line, knee, hip, heart. Look down your front body to make sure that you are neutral. Feel how that internal resistance doesn't take much effort to do a lot of work here. Maybe there's a levity that can come in as you kick into the hand just a little more. This side might be very different. Using your breath. Hand comes down, stack hip over knee, then kick into the hand. Peel the tail back. Keep that belly active as the heart starts to extend toward the chin. Then let the base of the throat come back, the neck, spine, and then the gaze. Don't let all your weight come into the left hand. Kick into the right. Extend, releasing the ankle. Root down with the foot. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, come into your seat. Vajrasana, rock pose. Take your time. Close eyes. Allow the weight of the heart to sit back over the pelvis and heels instead of tipping forward over your thighs. Pull the vocal cords back and lengthen the back neck up. Pull the hands closer to your pelvis so the shoulders can be buoyant. Find the breath rhythm. As you're ready, turning your heart once more toward the front of your mat if you had to make adjustments. And then sitting in the center before coming onto your back body. Allow for your feet to be flat on the floor, maybe a little wider than hips width. Toes point forward or slightly out to the sides. Reach the hands directly above the heart. Cross left arm over right and hug your chest. Let the shoulder blades go heavy and pause. Notice your organs, your rib cage. Notice your pelvis, your thighs, your feet. Remember, Taurus is an earth sign. Connect here. Phoenix, it's ashes here on the earth, being reborn. Reach both hands for the sky, shrug the shoulders up toward your chest, toward the ceiling, then right arm over, hugging heart. Once again, go heavy. Hands are on shoulder blades. The arms might be heavy toward your chin. Allow that. Let them rest against the chin instead of your throat. If you need to tuck your chin very slightly, do so. Feel your back spine meeting the earth, cradled. Releasing the hands, reach back up for the sky. Shrug the shoulders up toward your ears slightly as you bring your elbows down by your ribs. Walk your feet to hips width. about 2 fists in between your knees and or your ankles. Make sure that your ankles are directly under your knees, so shin is upright and you're not pulled in really tight toward your hip. Be a little spacious there. Again, toes might point out slightly so you can really feel the big toe root and the outer heel evenly. Push down through your elbows so that you can tuck your shoulder blades closer to your spine without pulling them down toward your pelvis. Notice that that already starts to lift your sternum toward your chin. Start to pull your tail toward the low back, toward the rib cage, toward your heart, so that the low back bones do a subtle lift. You're already in a back bend there. We're not pushing the low back bones toward the earth. We're doing the opposite. Inhale, gather your belly around that new curve, and then exhale, push down, feet, elbows, shoulders, lift the heart spine and the thighs. Let the tail come along for the ride. Soften the jaw, let your head get ½ pound heavier than it was a moment ago. Keep the back neck long without collapsing into the ground. You're not tucking the chin, you're ever so slightly lifting the neck spine through the throat. Inhale, lift the heart a little higher. Exhale, pull the knees a little farther away from you. Imagine hugging the heels toward the shoulders. Notice your tailbone. Try not to clench it with your glutes. The glutes are working, they're alive, but we're not leading with the pelvis. We're leading with the heart. We're leading with the thighs. And the pelvis is along for the ride. If there was a strap underneath your low back, the pelvis would be subtly hanging off of that strap. Belly is active so we don't overcurve. Imagine getting longer from the knees to the pit of the throat. Let the sternum come closer to the chin. Coil the shoulders behind you, between the space between them getting smaller. Elbows pushing down. You might feel your triceps burning. Inhale deep. Exhale long. Inhale, tap the tailbone down to the floor. Don't let the low back touch, just the tail. And then exhale, lift back up. Imagine your whole spine tipping, teeter-tottering on your shoulders. Exhale, lift back up. The shape of that spine not changing much as you descend and elevate. Stay in a bridge pose, one breath. And then take the tail down. Shrug your shoulders as you go. Let the pelvis come down. Walk the feet forward a couple inches. Walk the feet wide a few inches. Let the knees come in toward midline, then take the arms overhead. Let yourself sigh. Groan, hum, sing a song, cough it out, make a noise, use the vocal cords. Some way, somehow, receive the earth and relieve yourself of any encumbrance. Let everything go a little bit slack. Let your breath be your flow. First, bring the arms back down by the ribs. Walk the feet to hips width. Activate the back spine slightly. We're not going into full bridge mode, but activate that curve. Shoulders are slightly together. Maybe hands come down, but don't try to keep the hands close to the pelvis. That collapses the chest. Let the hands come out wide. wide as they need to for the palms to naturally meet the earth while the shoulder blades stay underneath you. Gather the belly. Push the left foot to the sky. Roll out the ankle. Turn that leg so that the knee and the toes and the thigh point out. Then bend the knee across right thigh. Make sure that the foot itself isn't resting on your thigh, but maybe the ankle. And then that foot is active. It doesn't have to flex hard, but the sole of the foot is active. So you're pulling the toes back and pushing through the ball of the foot. I like to keep the front of my ankle long here instead of finding 90 degrees. Be really conscientious of your pelvis. Notice the tendency is if you want to rotate your left thigh and knee forward, that your pelvis kind of comes along for the ride. Your right side waist starts to shorten. Instead, can you stabilize that right hip, that right side waist, and then move really deliberately in the earthiness of your hip? Can you find your breath? Maybe a gentle pulling in toward midline of that thigh, and then an exhale, pressing it out like it's moving like a billows. Spine and pelvis really secure. Releasing the ankle from the thigh, taking the hands around the shin. Let the knee come wide, wide out to the side of your ribs toward your armpit. And keeping the foot active again, but not necessarily flexed really hard. Check in with your right leg and your low back. Has it done some wonky things? Now that the knee is pulling in, is that left hip coming up toward your ribs? Can you keep that low back stable? If it's awkward to let your leg out wide enough while using your right hand, hold it with just your left. And then if you choose, you can start to straighten out your right leg long on the mat. Keeping that pelvis really stable. This time we're almost pushing out with that right hip, hugging in with the left hip. You'll notice that that tends to rotate that left knee out slightly more. Be okay with it. This is us gently mapping our new neutral, not trying to make our joints and our bones fit some other standard or paradigm, but becoming familiar with where our joints are happiest when they are not compensating for one another. If you'd like, you can reach down that shin with your right hand and then rotate the knee wider. We're not cranking through the foot or the ankle. We're holding on to the ankle and we're gently rotating. Think about the joint doing the work, the back and bottom of the hip, rotating that thigh away from your ribs and out to the side. The heel pretty close to your pelvis. Don't do anything that feels like it's cranking too much in the knee. No forcing, no pushing, none of that. Letting it happen from deep within. And then releasing the foot back to the earth. Notice your pelvis. Just be there in this asymmetrical neutrality. And then when you're ready, bending the right knee, bending the hip, putting the foot up to the sky. Arms are out, shoulders active, belly active. From deep inside the joint, point the knee, the thigh, the toes out. Then bend the knee, crossing that left thigh. Active foot and arch, but not necessarily hard 90 degrees in the ankle. Be there for a moment. Find your neutral, pelvis stable, both sideways long. And then from deep inside the joint, start to press the thigh away. Don't let the pelvis come along for the ride. Your spinal body is active. Shoulders pressing down, belly gathered in, gentle back bend. On an inhale, let the knee and the thigh come closer toward midline. And then exhale, pressing out, happening deep in the joint. Deliberate and small movements. Let your jaw go slack. Let the breath be deliberate. Few rounds. Release the ankle from the thigh, pulling that shin in and wide. Let it come out to the side. Foot active, but again, not necessarily 90-degree bend. Find the pelvis neutrality. Notice that as you pull that thigh in, that now the right hip wants to come up toward the ribs. Keep that side waist long. Be deliberate and isolated in your movement into the hip. Then if you'd like, lengthen out the left leg. Straight out from your body. Don't let it come off toward the edge of your mat. Let it be neutral with your heart and hip. I should say the side waist and the hip, we don't want it crossing the midline either. Be here, noticing the compensations that the spine and the pelvis want to do, subtle activation toward neutral. Letting it be as wide as it needs to be so that you're not pinching in the front of your hip joint. Releasing the low belly. Then left hand reaches across toward the ankle, again above the foot, so we're not cranking the foot across. Keep the foot active. Pulling the ankle toward the pelvis gently, not cranking in the knee. And then from deep inside the joint, rotating that thigh bone so the knee points out to the side a bit. Try to keep your left hip heavy and your pelvis neutral. Notice any compensation in the shoulders, the chest, the neck. Allow yourself to be held while activating deep inside that right hip. Let your breath be your flow. Two more breaths. And then gathering knee back toward midline, placing the foot neutral on the earth. Let everything settle for a moment. Yes, you are asymmetrical. Left leg is long, right knee is bent. Find the version of neutral that can live there. Bending the left knee, placing that foot on the earth. Take a moment, feel grounded. Bend both knees up toward the chest, wide as needed. Inhale, fill the back body with breath as you pull the nose up toward the knees. Breathe in. If it feels appropriate, hold the breath. Sip in a little more air. When you're ready, let it all go. Breath cycle. In and out. And you have the choice of either spreading eagle right now, finding your Shavasana, traditional corpse pose, shoulders shrugged, hands not, again, right next to the body. Allow the chest to be broad, the armpits to be spacious, let the feet be at least as wide as your mat. If you'd like the supported version, you can sit up. You can take your stacks of blankets or bolster long on your mat underneath you for a supported back bend. If you'd like a bound angle version that's also supported, a wide blanket rolled, feet together. That blanket goes over your arches and the ends tuck in underneath the ankles. That helps keep the bind and also supports your shins and thighs so that you're not totally surrendered to gravity. Those muscles can fight a little. Finding the position that suits you the best. This is where our practice gets us. We are learning to be the most quiet vessel for death. This place where we can be without fear, without resistance. As you surrender, allow the earth to cradle you. Allow your body to merge with hers. Allow her to breathe you. Trust her intention is pure. She will protect you, each of you, from all that is other than the good, the kind, the beautiful, and the true. As you bring your attention back to your breath, trust your strength, your resilience, for your strength is her strength, her stability. Allow your head to gently rock left and right, continuing to trust her support. Opening the jaw, beginning to move the wrists and the ankles. Eventually, bringing feet flat to the floor. Feeling the stability in your low body, the anchoring the soles of the feet through to the center of the earth. Eventually turning to the right, gathering knees up toward the heart, the nose down toward the knees, surrounding the navel center, this portal, this deep connection, a reminder of that connection to something larger than ourselves. Breathe through that portal into every cell in your body. Hold it there, illuminate, and then out the back points of your spine, release. Slowly unfurl as you find a seat, elevating hips, aligning the legs in a posture that suits you best in this moment, not where you think you ought to go. Place you feel into where you are most stable with the least amount of effort. Stacking the spine upright over the pelvis, thighs downward, low spine forward, low belly backward, heart outward, crown upward. Turning palms to face the sky, receptive. Into those palms, please accept the light of my gratitude. Let them fill to overflowing. Soak up a bit of this sweet nectar through your channels of your arms and into the center of your heart. Allow this light of gratitude to merge with the eternal light of your heart center. That light grows brighter with each inhale, expands with each exhale. Light that goes beyond your flesh, your boundaries, into the space around you, beyond the four walls in which you are housed, into the world, merging with all of the lights around you, indiscreet, inseparable, together, united. Bind your palms at your heart center, bowing in, trusting this guide, this beacon. It is both your home and the path forward. From my heart to yours, my light through yours. Namaste. Grazie mille, yogi friends. May you each walk forward with clarity, compassion, grace, and devotion. Thank you for joining me. I will be here for a few more minutes if anyone needs to hang around, ask questions. I appreciate it. Also, if you need to or choose to, there is no expectation of it, but if you are compelled to make a donation, my Venmo handle is at Richelle-Ricard or PayPal, Richelle, Richelle, at Unity Therapeutic. Again, these will start to be posted on yogaengineer.com soon. I hope to see you there. If you're not already on our mailing list, you can go sign up there at the bottom of any page. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your breath. I appreciate you being present here in community. Have a fantastic day.